Greetings everyone. I am going to do a video on the Andromeda deck that I've been playing for a while. This is the Andromeda President CEO deck. If you're familiar, I had it posted on Netrunner DB when that was active. So I've been wanting to do a video on this deck for a while, and really glad actually that I've waited for some recent cards that come out, because there have been some game changers. One card in particular, which I'll get to. But anyway, just one thing I want to mention about this deck in terms of a play style. There's, I believe, a couple viable ways to play Andy. And one of them is just sort of the balls to the wall, data sucker, Yogg, mimic, just the straight up get tokens and run right through you. That's a very popular build and is very fast. But one of the challenges that kind of deck has is that it can hit a wall in the mid to late game, and then Andy can effectively be shut out at a certain point, especially if you're vulnerable to a virus scan or something like that. So while that's a great build and is going to win and has proven that it's a great build over time, it has never really fit my playstyle, and I've never really played that kind of Andy. That checks. You can go back to my BGG post from the Plugged In Tour. I've been playing this style Andy for a long time, and I think that it's gotten better, and it's kind of a hybrid between being able to put a lot of early pressure on the corp, as well as being able to sustain a longer game, and not trying to avoid that late game wall. So anyway, enough on that. Let's get started. I think there are some pretty standard criminal cards in here, as you'll see. It's not totally unconventional by any means. There are some cards that I think probably fit in every criminal deck at the current time. But anyway, I'm going with the fairy package because it's so versatile and so cheap, and allows for very cheap face checking. You just drop a fairy, and then I'm really not afraid to check anything. So so that's a very powerful card. The Femme Fatale is my other backup Sentry Breaker. And Femme, of course, is so versatile. I can put it on so many pieces of ice. And as a 2 strength, it typically gets the job done. For the most part, the vast majority of Sentries I'm seeing are Tsurugi, Kamainu, maybe a Neural Katana, Ichi, occasionally a Grim. Grim isn't a fun thing to see, but the bad pub softens it a little bit. Plus, there's always Fairy to deal with things. So, or I can outright Femme the Grim. So anyway, Femme is obviously a great card. We all know that. Gordian Blade has been a staple of my criminal decks for the longest time. And the reason why I've always played Gordian over a Yogg is simply my philosophy as a runner is I never want to have my hands tied where I can't do anything. And Yogg, of course, presented, especially at Lotus Field, but even before Lotus Field, there was times where you just get locked out by Yogg and you wish you had a Gordian on the table, because that one last access wins you the game. So I just never wanted that situation to occur, so Gordian has always been my breaker of choice, and worth the influence in my estimation. Corroder is a very standard card in almost every deck, so still the most cost-effective fractor in the game, so that's why I'm playing it. Parasite is such a powerful card. Many people know this. But initially I was playing the deck with 1 Parasite, and ended up switching into 2 Parasites because It's just so versatile in the fact that it can do so many things. You know, it can take care of the zero strength ice, like rotos, pop ups, quandaries. So it gives you effectively another way to break into those servers. Like, say they're relying on a quandary to rush an Astro script or something like that. It just gives you another way to get into the server um, if you need to. Also, it's effectively an econ card as well. So if I'm playing against like maybe a big Heimdall or even a toll booth and I'm not able to shut it down, or a Grim as mentioned before, I can trickle down the strength of these ice and make it much more cost effective to run. Even and then if they do decide to wipe it later and keep the ice around, that, of course, took an entire turn for them to do that, which is almost always a win for the runner, especially in a deck like this where that's the only viruses I'm running. So, so Parasite is absolutely amazing, and just a power card, I think, in the game right now, and pretty much fits in almost every single deck. So, Sneak Door Beta. This is one of the most recent additions to the deck. And I can tell you one of the reasons why is, well, I'll get into more of the reasons later. I'll probably come back to Sneak Door a little bit later. But what I'll say about it now is I feel like in the game, the current state of the game, it is very, very important for a runner to be able to put pressure on all three central servers, Archives, HQ, and R&D, to be able to slow corps down enough or be able to put pressure on the corporations consistently throughout the game. Like Near Earth Hub, if they're not feeling pressure at all three centrals, they're just probably going to run away with it. And for that, Sneak Door Beta is a wonderful card. I mean, you can just outright win games with this card when you know they're loaded and they don't see it coming. You just drop it and you're in, and grabbing agendas left, right, and center. And when you have a lot of multi-access cards like I do in this deck, and you can grab a couple cheap ones with Sneak Door, it makes winning a lot easier. So just one of my all-time favorite criminal cards, and very, very happy I was able to find a way to get it into the deck. So moving on to Account Siphon. Yeah, if you don't know by now, Account Siphon's a pretty good card. Gets a lot done in terms of econ, playing a control style game with the corp, and I think that's just to touch on a little bit, backtracking the kind of style this deck is. When I say a longer game deck, it's like a control kind of thing where I can put the corp in certain vices, certain awful situations where they can't do everything they need to do. One of the ways of doing that, of course, is controlling their economy, and that's what a lot of what this deck is trying to do, is just run their economy down. And not much of a better card in the game to do that than Account Siphon. And one thing that's really neat too, I think, about how this deck is built is there's a certain point in the game where I can easily go tag me if I need to, and if they trash any of the resources I have on the board, I'm totally fine with it, because by that point that I'm going tag me, typically it's when I have a pretty reasonable setup already going, or I feel like I'm going to be in pretty good control of the game at that point going forward. So if they want to take the time to trash the resources I have out there, I think it's just even more of a win for me. But on that note, there are actually many games where I just don't play Account Siphon because there's better things to do. So it's interesting. I think the game's opened up to a certain point where there's different avenues to winning than just the siphon spam that you see, in a lot of criminal builds. So anyway, moving on. Special Order is another, I think, very standard criminal card. I can't ever imagine running any less than 3. Just to have those quick access turns where you face check a remote, see that it's an ice wall, grab a corroder with your Special Order, drop the corroder, run, and steal the agenda. How many times, if you've played criminal, how many times have you done that? Probably a lot of times. So that will always be a great play. Special Order will always be an amazing card. Emergency Shutdown is also a pretty standard criminal card, I would say, and really fits into the control style of build, where you can control their economy with Emergency Shutdown. And quite honestly, even against corps like Near Earth Hub, where their ice is going to be like probably 5 res cost or less, that's really significant to Near Earth Hub, because they don't have the same type of economy engine as, say, like an HB. So shutting down an ice for 3 credits, like an Eli, or it's even sometimes shutting down a Quandary for that 1 credit and then making them re-res it again, can take them from 2 credits to 1 credit, and now they can't score that Astro Script out of hand. So Near Earth Hub can sometimes work on a very delicate budget, and being able to shut down ice, even that's cheap, can give you a control advantage in the game. So I've had 2 shutdowns in this deck forever. Literally right before recording this, I added the 3rd, and I think it's just going to help strengthen the control game a little bit more. Plus, I'm getting more accesses now to HQ than ever before now that I'm playing Sneak Door, so I think I'll even be able to get more value from the card, or actually maybe more opportunities to play the card, rather. So I'm kind of excited to test it with 3 shutdowns. I think it's going to be improved. So next card, Sure Gamble. Again, a very standard runner card. There are some decks I've seen without it nowadays, but this deck definitely wants it because it's still probably the best opening card, opening hand card in the game, and might remain that way for all the game, which would be cool because it's a core card and classic. Okay, let's get to my absolute favorite card in this deck, the Supplier. And I don't know what the overall reception is on this card from the community, but I can tell you that I've been keeping track of the amount of credits I've been getting from this card consistently for like the last 10-15 games, somewhere around there. And I can say that every time I put it on the board, I'm getting, almost every single time, I don't think I've ever gotten less than 8 credits of value. And I've gotten upwards to 19 credits of value from Supplier. And I would say the average value I'm getting from installs on the Supplier is 12, 14, probably somewhere in that range. And that is monstrous. That is just huge. I took out Dirty Laundry in this deck, which, a lot of people gasp taking Dirty Laundry out of an Andy build. But why? Like, I don't think I need it, because this card is so strong. I get way more value from the Supplier, especially if I can have it early or in my opening hand. Typically I can get 3 credits, 4 max with Desperado from a Dirty Laundry. If I play 3, I might get 12 credits of value from a Dirty Laundry. From playing 3 Dirty Laundries, I have to find all 3 to get that value, where the Supplier, I just need to find 1, and then I can practically get the same value or much more than those dirty laundries. Additionally, it effectively works as a great opening hand card, even better than dirty laundry in my opinion, because a lot of corps will just throw ice in front of 3 servers, and now you're stuck with a dirty laundry in your opening hand. With a supplier, I can always put it down and just throw resources and hardware on it, which it's the first turn. If I put 2-3 things on it, eventually those things are going to get down. So they're going to be installed, and that's just starting the train of getting value on it right away. And also it can give me some versatile options during the gameplay at the start of my turn. Do I want to play the R&D interface? Do I want to play the HQ interface? Do I want to play the compromised employee, or do I want to play the daily cast? So it gives me more flexibility, and also gives me a huge economic advantage. So enough about the supplier. Desperado, still probably the best console in the game. There are some nice consoles out there for sure. I think Boxy is a really nice card, but there's just no reason in my mind to not play Desperado. That credit is so important, especially for being able to run and trash assets. I'll probably, I don't see myself going away from Desperado anytime soon. It's nice opening hand supplier bait, because a lot of times I'm not running that first turn and getting a credit for Desperado, so I can get it in to play the second turn when I'm about to make runs. HQ interface. Man, I don't know if I'm going to be playing legwork anytime soon, as long as the supplier and HQ interface exist, because I can pretty much create a perma legwork, or at least a perma mini legwork, and getting 2 accesses every single time is huge. Or even some games I get both interfaces down, and I am absolutely raking their hand every single access, and that puts a lot of pressure. And of course, with the addition of Sneak Door, legwork and Sneak Door do not jive, but HQI and Sneak Door definitely jive. So I would say with the HQ interface Sneak Door supplier combo, I've been getting more HQ accesses per game than I have in the recent editions of this deck with legwork. So again, excited about being able to make Sneak Door work, and HQI supplier creates more synergy to make it effective. 4 more influence here in the R&D interfaces. I've talked about this in other videos. I don't think sacrificing accesses can be shortcut in any deck. You need something. You need a medium. You need R&D interface. You need Maker's Eye, legwork, HQI, Nerve Agent. These are absolute musts in virtually every single runner deck. Some combination of HQ pressure and R&D pressure to see multiple cards, and it's absolutely worth the 4 influence to have 2 of these to ensure that I see one at least by the mid game. I would say I'm very likely to see one. Oftentimes I can get 2 in play, especially with the supplier, and having a 3-card lock on the corporation is devastating for them. That is a very, very strong R&D lock to have on them, especially if I have their hand under control too with Sneak Door and HQ interface. So it can create a ton of control against the corp where they really have nowhere to go. They can't hide agendas in their hand. You have a lock on their R&D, and with big flexible breakers and a lot of money, you have locks on the remotes too. So awesome card, love it, and is also, I think, a staple of every criminal build, or almost every criminal build. Clone Chip is a really nice utility piece of hardware. Essentially, it does a lot of things for me. I think there's a couple ways of dealing with programs getting trashed, because as good as we all like to think we are, occasionally we're going to get a program trashed, whether it's by net damage or brain damage or a grim or whatever. At some point, a valuable program is going to go in your heap, and you're going to be upset about it and wish you had a way to get it back. So there's two ways of dealing with that, and that's either playing like something like Crypsis or an AI breaker, maybe Knight, something along those lines, or playing some sort of recursion card. And I'm going with Clone Chip for the sake of its versatility. If I lose, say, a Corroder, Gordian, or Fem, 3 permanent breakers that I might need, I can put the Clone Chip in play and bring it back to the table that way. If I have my breakers on the table and I feel, reasonably confident that I'm not going to lose them, then maybe I'll do Parasite Recursion. Or maybe I need Fairy Recursion if they res an Archer in my face. So there's a lot of things I can do with it. Or maybe, there might be games where I just need to go grab a Sneak Door too, and get in their hand and win the game. So extremely versatile card. And, same thing about being able to install on the fly is very, very, very powerful. Security testing, excellent econ card. So, in some ways, I'm wondering if I should play 3, but the problem is that usually having more than one isn't that useful. It is nice to have early, that's for sure, but security testing really puts a lot of pressure on the corporation to try and ice every single server they have, and that can oftentimes be difficult to do, especially if you have pressure on all 3 central servers, and now they're playing like marked accounts or pad campaign or eve campaign. It makes it hard for them to find enough ice to protect everything. So security testing was a huge boost for the criminal faction when it came out, and I don't see it going away, especially in Andy, anytime soon. So Daily Cast is a card that gets so much love from the supplier. It really turns supplier turns Daily Cast into practically the best econ card in the game. One of them, for sure. So, I mean, you put it down for 1, or you put it down for a click into the supplier, and then at the start of your turn, you pay 1. Now, one of the keys to knowing the timing of Daily Cast, you do not get the credits the turn it comes off the supplier. So yes, it's a little bit of a setback in that you don't get paid on it immediately like you do with or not even immediately, but the next turn like you do when you play it regular. However, the vast majority of times you put a Daily Cast down, you have 4 more turns left in the game. So for that, you're getting 7 credits on a 1 credit investment, and that's monstrous. That is absolutely monstrous. So Daily Cast becomes a very powerful card with the supplier in play. And moving on to Compromised Employee, this is where the deck gets its name, the President CEO thing. So anyway, I think, in my opinion, this might be one of the most undervalued cards by the community in the game. I've talked to players who I have tremendous respect for, and there are many, many times the overwhelming response to Compromised Employee is, it's okay. If you get it early, it's okay. Is a lot of what people say, and I can imagine that probably in most decks that's the case. However, I've been playing this deck long enough to see that I get so much stinking value from this card. Even when I was paying 2 credits every time to install it, I was getting a tremendous amount of value from this card. But now the fact that I can get it into play for free with the supplier, oh my god. I was playing a game the other day, and My opponent and I sat down at the end of the game. Well, we were sitting down, I'm sure, at a computer, but we were discussing after the game the value I was getting from the supplier and compromised employee. We tallied up that I had 19 credits from the supplier and 22 credits from compromised employees. And I mean, that's crazy. And I got all the compromise. I had three in play, and I had or maybe no, I only had two in play. That was with the two compromised employees in play. I didn't even have the third one down. But I got him in for free, and then proceeded to run all over his ice, shut down his ice, destroy his ice, make him put in new ice, re-res ice, all that. And every time he did that, and every time that happens in every game, that's 1, 2, 3 credits in my credit pool. That is so strong. Additionally, the trace, there's enough trace in the game that the recurring credits are useful, and at times can totally shut down certain decks. There's still people who like to play, core set MBN and play a lot of the tracing ice like Caduceus and Draco, that kind of thing. That gives you, an extra boost against those. It can totally nullify basically the core identity for MBN. So, huge fan of compromised employee, and the supplier just makes it even better on a whole nother level. So, next card is Mr. Lee. Again, one of the biggest problems with Mr. Lee in the past for me is the difficulty of finding opportunities to get him in play. To actually want to pay 3 credits to get him in play sometimes is really painful when it's a fast-paced game. But being able to pay a credit for it and a click, man, that is just a ridiculous bargain to get Mr. Lee in play. And the speed of the deck once Mr. Lee is in play, I mean, literally, pretty much almost effectively doubles the speed of the deck. It's not quite, because occasionally you can draw 2 cards you might really need. That sucks. That's probably the hardest part of Lee, is when you see 2 cards you really want. But nonetheless, I'd rather have that happen occasionally and make sure that I get the cards I need a lot more efficiently. So Mr. Lee and Supplier just allows you to fly around the deck and get what you need so much faster. And then last but not least, I've been going back and forth for the past couple weeks in my head about yes Plascrete, no Plascrete, yes Crash Space, no Crash Space. Ultimately, at this point, I'm just going to go with 2 Carapace. I've played the Near Earth Hub's kill deck and played against it enough to see that it's a totally legit deck. I think the meta right now is sort of in a position where people are realizing that a lot of people aren't playing cards like Carapace. And so kill decks have really had a resurgence recently, Scorch decks in particular. And I think even with the Blue Sun coming out, that is a viable Scorch option for a deck. And I think that's going to be running around a little bit more now that that idea is live. So I don't want to mess around. The last thing I ever want to do is die to a flatline for any reason. It's just a horrible way to lose a game. We've all been there. And again, one of the worst things about Plascrete is just like feeling like sometimes you're going to pay those 3 credits and then not get any value from it the whole game. The horse is definitely on the ground and dead right now, but I'm gonna knock him up one more time, because Plascrete Carapace on a supplier for $1, who cares? Just get it in and have the peace of mind that you're not gonna get killed for that game, or you're not. You can now have, some people are playing the HB punitive decks or the CI punitive decks. Whatever. Jinteki plays Scorched Earth too, so why not just get it in? If there's any threat whatsoever, pay $1 to put it in play. Who cares? and now you're protected. And additionally, it all Carapace over Crash Space also opens up the opportunity to play a tag me game if you need to. So anyway, that is my baby. This deck has done very well for me. Took me to first place in the Stimhack League. And has performed beautifully for me recently. At this point in time, I'm quite sure this is what I'm going to be bringing to Worlds. It will be this exact deck, or at least something very similar. So, really excited about it. If you got comments, I'd love to hear them, or questions, or anything of that nature. And I hope you enjoyed this. Over and out.